Hello, my name is Monica Campos and I'm a commercial helicopter pilot. I grew up with my grandfather, Herb Reich, telling me stories about when he had his own airplane and used to take my father and my aunt up. And when I was growing up, I thought, wow, what a cool thing to do, and thought that maybe flying for the airlines would be something that would be very interesting and a fun job to do. So after high school, I went to check out Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And when I was there, they had helicopter rides for the families that came to open house. And it was 10 minutes in an R44 helicopter, the same one that I'm sitting in today, that convinced me that helicopter flying was what I wanted to do. So 2 months after that first initial flight, I started flight training out of Long Beach, California with a company called LA Helicopters. It took me about 2 years to get all my ratings from private all the way to commercial and flight instructor. And after that, I moved to the San Francisco Bay Area and was teaching people how to fly in the R22 and R44 helicopter. After working in the San Francisco Bay Area for 2.5 years, at that time the economy took a tank and not that many people were flying. So I moved back to LA, where my family was, and I started teaching at a small flight school that had just opened called Star Helicopters in Hawthorne. And there was a private owner who needed some warranty work done on the aircraft, on his personal aircraft. So I decided to help him out and fly it to the Robinson helicopter factory to help him with that. And I flew the helicopter in and was waiting to get picked up in the parking lot when Frank Robinson himself happened to be driving in to the factory. And I was so excited when I saw him, I just started waving at him. And he was driving his car and giving me a weird, strange look and parked in the garage. And then he came out to come talk to me, and I ran over and stuck my hand out, shook his hand and said, "Hi Frank, I'm Monica Reich, I'm a helicopter pilot and I would love to work for you someday." And he kind of looked at me strange and said, "Well, we don't have any flight positions available at this time." And I just said, "I don't care if it's making you coffee every day, I just want to be here." And he looked down and then looked back at me and said, "Well, why don't you come back at 2 o'clock and we'll have an interview." So I ran home, brought my resume, and was back there at 2 o'clock, and we had a 3-hour interview. And after that, subsequent interviews later, he eventually proposed the idea of working as his assistant. So I got my job at Robinson Helicopter Company with the owner and founder, Frank Robinson, as his assistant. So I worked for him part-time, and then people started to realize at the factory that I was a pilot and that I knew the aircraft. I was a flight instructor. So from an assistant, I moved into the sales department. I started with export aircraft, and then I moved into government contracts and law enforcement, news helicopter sales. From there, it went into the flight safety department and producing flight safety videos. It moved into being the Whirly Girl rep and various other things that I do here at the factory. I give tours of the factory. So I've been here now 9 years and have loved every minute of it. In addition to all the other administrative things that I do, I'm a pilot for the factory, so I get to fly the aircraft to and from the trade shows and do various demonstration flights for the factory as well. So when I started flight training out of Long Beach, I was 18 years old, and the flight school I went to hired a female instructor to come train with me. So I flew with this instructor while I was working and going to school at the same time. And my parents told me at the beginning, you know, we don't have money to pay for college and for flight training, so you can do one or the other. So my parents decided to help pay for flight training, and I went to college, community college, on my own. So while I was training, it took me 6 months to get my private pilot's license, and that was going 2 to 3 times a week. After that, I went into my commercial license and my instrument rating, and those were done simultaneously. After that, I went into my CFI training for both instrument and standard instruction, and the whole thing took me 2 years, and the price tag back in 2006, 2008 was about $87,000. So I was very fortunate. My parents had saved up money, what was going to be my college tuition, paid for the majority of it. I paid for a lot of it, going to work at the same time, and my grandparents helped out as well. When you consider flight training, the initial investment seems very high, but the return on that investment can be quite lucrative. So the industry right now is going through a shift where many people are retiring in the airline industry. So therefore, the airline industry is looking for pilots wherever they can find them. So low-time, fixed-wing flight instructors are getting picked up with the airlines, as well as helicopter pilots. So the helicopter industry itself is going through an even larger shortage because many of them are transitioning to the airlines. Maybe for a different lifestyle, to travel more, or for a more fixed schedule. But there are many opportunities in the helicopter industry, whether it's tours, game survey, firefighting, law enforcement, news gathering, power and pipeline patrol. There's so many different types of jobs in the helicopter industry that are in dire need of helicopter pilots. Some of the first types of jobs that you would get as a helicopter pilot would be, one, flight instruction, and the second one would be tours. And doing tours in a Robinson, an R44, and R66 doesn't require that many hours. Usually starting tour jobs are at 500 hours, maybe 700 hours, whereas a first turbine tour job for, let's say, Las Vegas or Hawaii might be 1,000 hours or 1,200 hours. So for those of you who are considering flight training or had never considered it before, I highly encourage you to go check out your local airport, local flight school that offers demonstration flights in an R22, R44 helicopter, and just go fly for an hour. Usually they have half-hour intro flights, and I promise you what you see in that half-hour or hour flight is going to amaze you. And once you get to start knowing the people in the industry and seeing all the different opportunities that are available out there, scholarships as well, I can tell you that it's actually a really fun industry to be in and very rewarding at the same time.